Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
I'm Catherine White, your host of the weekly Friday Power Lunch, and the show that brings you the guests, the issues, and the actions in one big room, because we love to amplify the voice of the grassroots to get things done and to make politics fun. And so we're going to get to that today. It's April 22nd, everybody, and you're on the welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. And our theme today is playing to your strengths for confidence, competency, and caring. So we have a great guest to talk all about that. So I would like to bring our guests up on the screen. And first, we're going to kick it out of the room with, all the way from Portland, Oregon, we have Gary Carter Green, producer and founder of You Can't Beat Blue. How the heck are you? Are you eating a donut today? What are you eating for breakfast?
I'm not eating a donut, but I heard you ladies or someone's getting together for a big Sunday breakfast, and I heard the menu is coming up, and you might see me on your doorstep. Portland's not that far away. Just expect me.
I know. I'm so excited for people to learn about you and talk about fun. You do bring the fun to politics, like we believe in that. So we are looking forward, and we're really excited to talk to you. So thank you for being here, Gary. Awesome. And next, what? Yay! Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. And next up, of course, exuding confidence, people skills. Gary, thank you. Next up, Delegate Vivian Watts is here, and she is our wonderful guest that's always in our Friday Power Lunch and also in the after chat. So it's so much fun to have you up on the big screen. How are you doing?
Thank you, Kat. I'm really thrilled to be in this position. Just quick, you're addictive. I keep on saying I've got too much else to do. I can't take the time, and yet every Friday here I am, and I love it. It's wonderful.
I love it. Talk about bringing the confidence, competency, and caring all in one. You're just that historic, your life's history just really adds up to where you are today. And I can't wait to unpack that with you, especially around fiscal responsibility. And so this is going to be awesome. So we're so glad that you're in the room today, Vivian. So thank you for being here. And lastly, we have Kim Bobo here, American religious and workers' rights activist and the current executive director of the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. What's going on in your neck of the woods? Kim, how are you?
Well, we are ready for the General Assembly to be finished, but we're working away. And as you know, we engage people of faith and goodwill across the Commonwealth in trying to make the Commonwealth a better and more welcoming and fair, more equitable Commonwealth that will benefit all of us. So that's what we're doing.
I love that you threw down the equitable. We like that word. We're going to keep saying it over and over. And I just can't wait to talk to you later. You're just amazing. The life of organizing and around faith and really caring. And I think that's so important. So thank you, Kim, for being here. We're just really excited to unpack your session too. Okay. Excellent. So how awesome is that, everybody in the room? If you're ready, you got your Friday Power Pants on and you're ready to get it going. We have the after chat, so stick around. Post show, we will get together and just chat about what's on your mind. So we hope you can stick around for that. And also, we have our chat function, and that's always awesome to communicate in there. But if you get a little naughty, we have some bouncers in the room, and we will bounce you out. We don't take second chances. Just keep it real, but not nasty, as we say. So thank you for that. And also, our favorite part of our show, to tell you about what we do, we have a Patreon subscription, and you could support us for just the price of a cup of coffee or more. You help keep the lights on at the Friday Power Lunch. So we thank you for that. And Rosemary Savino, our newest Patreon member. Thank you, Rosemary. We do miss you. You know, Rosemary was on the show, but she got herself a job. So if she's on today, hi, Rosemary. Hope you're doing good. And if you have any questions during this show, please send them to our chat liaison, Michelle McKinney. Michelle, you're going to take care of people, right? If they have any questions, direct them at Michelle. Give a wave. All right. So for now, let's get things started. Let's just do our What's Up segment. I'm so glad you're here, and I know you're ready for a big weekend.
Yes, I am.
Mm-hmm.
Very big weekend. I plan to be up your neck of the woods this weekend.
Well, why don't you tell people what you're doing? We're so excited because maybe they could sign up, but you're coming up to our neck of the woods.
Yes, I'm coming up to your neck of the woods to moderate I won't call it a debate, but more like a really nice chat session between Congressman Beyer and Victoria, who's in a primary with them. So we're going to have a wonderful discussion. It's going to be at Lake Barcroft, and I'm very excited to be moderating that. And I am bringing a special guest with me.
Who are you bringing?
Well, it's a secret. But I'm only going to tell it it's a secret, but I'm only going to tell this group. And so I know that everyone can keep the secret.
Okay.
Deborah Gardner. I'm bringing Deborah Gardner with me.
Holy cow, Deborah Gardner. That is awesome. And that will be on the beautiful banks of Lake Barcroft. So that's awesome what you're doing. And we just wanted to highlight our show Messenger is coming up into Nova. So we just so excited to have her in person and at breakfast. But I also want to talk about what's been going on when, you know, one thing you've been really pushing around is about the messaging and the framing. It's also this ability to punch back when we need to. And we saw on the news this weekend, it just lit up Twitter with the Senator Mallory McMorrow just really punched back against these ugly attacks against her. Why don't we show that? And then I want to hear you talk about that. So get that queued up.
Thank you, Mr. President. I didn't expect to wake up yesterday to the news that the senator from the 22nd district had overnight accused me by name of grooming and sexualizing children in an email fundraising for herself. So I sat on it for a while wondering why me. And then I realized because I am the biggest threat to your hollow, hateful scheme. Because you can't claim that you are targeting marginalized kids in the name of, quote, parental rights if another parent is standing up to say no. So then what? Then you dehumanize and marginalize me. You say that I'm one of them. You say she's a groomer. She supports pedophilia. She wants children to believe that they were responsible for slavery and to feel bad about themselves because they're white. Well, here's a little bit of background about who I really am. Growing up, my family was very active in our church. I sang in the choir. My mom taught CCD. One day, our priest called a meeting with my mom and told her that she was not living up to the church's expectations and that she was disappointing. My mom asked why. Among other reasons, she was told it was because she was divorced and because the priest didn't see her at Mass every Sunday. So where was my mom on Sundays? She was at the soup kitchen with me. My mom taught me at a very young age that Christianity and faith was about being part of a community, about recognizing our privilege and blessings and doing what we can to be of service to others, especially people who are marginalized, targeted, and who had less, often unfairly. I learned that service was far more important than performative nonsense like being seen in the same pew every Sunday or writing Christian in your Twitter bio and using that as a shield to target and marginalize already marginalized people. I also stand on the shoulders of people like Father Ted Hesburgh, the longtime president of the University of Notre Dame, who was active in the civil rights movement, who recognized his power and privilege as a white man, a faith leader, and the head of an influential and well-respected institution, and who saw Black people in this country being targeted and discriminated against and beaten, and reached out to lock arms with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he was alive, when it was unpopular and risky, and marching alongside them to say, "We've got you," to offer protection and service and allyship to try to right the wrongs and fix injustice in the world. So who am I? I am a straight, white, Christian, married, suburban mom who knows that the very notion that learning about slavery or redlining or systemic racism somehow means that children are being taught to feel bad or hate themselves because they are white is absolute nonsense. No child alive today is responsible for slavery. No one in this room is responsible for slavery. But each and every single one of us bears responsibility for writing the next chapter of history. Each and every single one of us decides what happens next and how we respond to history and the world around us. We are not responsible for the past. We also cannot change the past. We can't pretend that it didn't happen or deny people their very right to exist. I am a straight, white, Christian, married, suburban mom. I want my daughter to know that she is loved, supported, and seen for whoever she becomes. I want her to be curious, empathetic, and kind. People who are different are not the reason that our roads are in bad shape after decades of disinvestment, or that healthcare costs are too high, or that teachers are leaving the profession. I want every child in this state to feel seen, heard, and supported, not marginalized and targeted because they are not straight, white, and Christian. We cannot let hateful people tell you otherwise to scapegoat and deflect from the fact that they are not doing anything to fix the real issues that impact people's lives. And I know that hate will only win if people like me stand by and let it happen. So I want to be very clear right now. Call me whatever you want. I hope you brought in a few dollars. I hope it made you sleep good last night. I know who I am. I know what faith and service means and what it calls for in this moment. We will not let hate win.
Mm-hmm.
So that was so powerful. And, you know, I want to just take a minute here because I think this is so important. I personally felt like we were not punching back as hard as we needed to. And it doesn't mean being rude. It doesn't mean being nasty, but it means calling them out. You know,
Right.
I always have this thing that I say, we see you, we hear you. Because to me, if we don't let them know that we hear and see the foolishness, if we don't bring it back to them so that they hear it out loud and how ridiculous it sounds, we're just sort of sitting there and letting it be true. Because some people don't know the truth, and we
Right.
have to tell them.
No, I think with this newest thing they're up to, there's, you know, they just keep trying, and it gets worse and worse with this idea of the words they're using, like grooming. We got to punch back because it is super dangerous. And it's the word of, actually, this is something Putin has used, other authoritarians have used, and it's a smear that actually is just super, not only vile and disgusting, but it actually gets into the brain in a way that is dangerous, and how people can't escape it. So, you know, that smear, it's been used all the way back. David Duke used it when he ran for office against his opponent. So I think you're right. I think we really need to make sure we right away stand up. And so thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I think we need to make sure, highlight that. And I think everybody, Dems were jazzed. We're like, yeah, we need to fight. We need to fight back. We can't just, right?
I'll tell you this last thing. So I have that speech, and I'm going to copy it down because I do think that when things work, you don't have to recreate the wheel, but everybody has a story that's similar to that. And so what I really want to say is that we just have to sort of dig in and get a little courage. And so that means, because it doesn't feel comfortable all the time to hit back when you need to. So we just got to get a little courage, and all of us have a story, and we should tell it.
I love it. And it's true. And we can still have love in our heart, put love in our heart, but we also have to make sure we deliver that wham for sure. And talking about some good news. I want to say it is Earth Day, and Clean Virginia will be partnering with us, and they'll be here next week on the Power Lunch, but they will be a partner when we're doing the Women's Summit this year. And we know that, Stare, if you can put in the chat for everybody, they're going to be celebrating Earth Day, and they have some fun things. They'll be in Arlington doing a festival, but they'll also have a contest on Instagram that you'll get some cool swag. if you follow them on social media. So how fun is that? And we're so glad they'll be our partner. Climate is one of the top important things that, again, Republicans are arguing about all this weird culture stuff, and our roads need fixing, our bridges need fixing, and we delivered the money for that. Thank you very much. So thank you. That's awesome. And one last thing too, we had two other pieces of good news, is that there's a judge that put a hold on the reproductive right issue that the Republican legislatures have been passing against women's rights. And there was a judge that put a hold on that thanks to Planned Parenthood. And they will be in the room with us on March 20th. We'll be hosting Planned Parenthood to talk about these continued attacks on women's rights. And lastly, the Trump campaign had to be ordered to pay $1.3 million in legal fees against when they try to file a lawsuit against Omarosa. Is her name?
Yeah, Omarosa.
Omarosa. Yeah, and he lost. So there's some little good flickers of news here and there. Yeah. So I'm going to hand it over to you for the next segment. We're so excited that Gary's here. So why don't you get to that, and I am going to sit by and watch it happen.
All right, wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
So I am so excited to have an opportunity to talk to Gary Carter Green today. I was a little bit nervous because you sort of feel like a bit of a celebrity to me because you sort of are, but we'll see how well I do. So why don't we just get started a little bit telling folks exactly what you are? Because if you ask me, I'll say he's an award-winning producer, game show, competitions, red carpet, you've done it all. And here you are sitting here today in politics. So tell us a little bit about how all that got started and how power and confidence and caring rolls into that.
Oh, thanks, Fennell. I'm first of all, I just want to say I'm so thrilled to be here with all of these wonderful proactive women and happy to be representing the Y chromosome for y'all today. I'm seeing the names pop into the chat. I see a lot of guys there, so I'm happy. And yeah, I've worked as a television producer for about 20 years, and I'm now living in Portland. I have a little bit of free time, and I have been activated since the 2016 presidential election, as so many of us were. But, you know, I was not politically active before then, and I didn't really know what to do. So I sat down one day. I said, well, what are my skills? What are my talents? I can produce content. I can produce television. I can host. I've been doing that. And so that's where I started. And You Can't Be Blue is developing into a phenomenon. It is a website, youcan'tbeblue.com. It is a Facebook group. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We're on Reddit. We're on TikTok. And we have a channel on YouTube, hundreds of videos. It is all original content, and it's pointed towards making politics understandable, non-threatening, and fun. They don't have fun in Washington, D.C. Well, Madison Cawthorn might be having fun in Washington, D.C. from what I hear, but the rest of them I don't think have that much of a good time. They all look miserable. We interview midterm candidates. We interview people who are in office right now, elected officials, campaign managers, activists, just like what you guys do, educators, newsmakers, and it's all about helping everybody out there develop their civic muscles. And the approach that we take is very lighthearted, very direct, very fun, with the understanding that we all have little pieces that we get about politics, and we all have our fortes, if you will. But none of us know everything, and that's no reason to be intimidated or to feel like we don't have a voice or that we shouldn't speak up. It's when you speak up, it's when you use your voice that you find all these other people who can fill in the gaps that you don't have. And that's what the group You Can't Beat Blue has done on Facebook. It's been phenomenal just watching all of these people across the country and around the world just helping each other, providing people information and pointing them to places where they can learn how the government works, how these bills become laws, what Joe Biden is responsible for and what he's not responsible for. And when we can direct our focus to the proper areas, we can get so much more done. And it's just been a phenomenal transformation for me. I feel so much more empowered than I ever did, and so proud to stand up for what I believe in politically now. And we're going to keep going. And the midterms are coming up, and it's going to be tough. But it's things like the Friday Power Lunch and You Can't Be Blue that are going to make it real easy for people to spread the word. And I think we're going to have a really good November.
Well, I'm so happy to hear you say that. But before we get started, this is really important. So before it was You Can't Beat Blue, it was You Can't Beat Pete. So talk a little bit about how that got you inspired on this journey.
Hey, listen, I heard out of the corner of my ear one day that there's this mayor in Indiana and he's a gay man and he's running for president. And I thought what a lot of people did. This guy's just trying to get a little spotlight for himself, just like so many people do. You have all these sort of C-list celebrities running for president, usually a Kardashian every few years throws their hat into the ring. And I happened to catch him in a 1 hour. This is a 1 hour format where he was talking about his book with Jonathan Allen at Politics and Prose, this very wonderful bookshop in Washington, D.C. You can't fool people for an hour. That guy sat there and answered question after question after question and was phenomenal. And I'm like, this is the guy I want to get behind. He's making politics accessible and understandable. He's relatable. He's using his own personal experiences, and it didn't hurt that he's done so much. So I became a Pete disciple and started the website originally, You Can't Beat Pete. And that actually, it's still up, youcan'tbeatpete.com. And it chronicles my whole evolution from standing out on a street corner outside the farmer's market in Portland, terrified of talking to people. We had a big Pete cardboard cutout next to us. Then I started doing phone banking, and then I started raising money, and then I started going to rallies and functions, and all of a sudden I was good at it. I don't know when that happened, but I think a lot of it had to do with, and there's a lot of people in the room, Mary Rarick is one of them, who helped me along. Those are the other people that I found in the Pete universe. Then Pete decided to bow out of the race and support Joe Biden, and I thought, okay, well, I don't want to let this movement, You Can't Beat Pete, go. Number one, because Pete's going to be back. We all know he's going to be back. And I'm ready for him. So I pivoted to what I thought was most important, which was midterms, because I feel that we sometimes drop the ball when it comes to midterms. We don't think that they're as important as the presidential elections. We don't give them the focus, the attention. We don't give those candidates the money that they need to fight and to win. We need Democrats to win in these midterms more than ever before. So I'm just spreading the word that midterms start now, no matter what year it is, no matter what time it is. Always be thinking about the midterms. Never let those candidates go by, especially this time around. We have got people motivated to run that are fantastic because they have seen what happened with this Trump insurrection and the 4 years that Trump was president. And people, private citizens who never would have run before because they are afraid of getting torn apart and everything, the bad side of politics, the rancid side of politics, but they're doing it because they understand that democracy is vulnerable. And we've interviewed so many of these candidates, and they all need help. They all need financial support. They all need word of mouth. And you can come to You Can't Beat Blue. It's almost like a dating service. You can find any candidate that speaks what you think is important all across the country, send them some money, get them into office. We interviewed Fennell when you were running, and Caitlin Coakley in Virginia, and Jennifer Kitchen. And you guys are everywhere, and it's time that we really put the focus on you and get you guys elected and get you into office and help save this republic.
Well, that's what I love so much about You Can't Beat Blue, and that is you guys reach out to help anyone and everyone who is fighting for democracy, who's fighting to participate, and that's awesome. I think that we should take a look at You Can't Beat Blue and see what it looks like. So, Robin.
That's a great question, Gary.
That is a fantastic question.
What's funny is no one's ever asked me that question before.
Honestly, this has taken me by surprise.
He asks the questions you want answered.
Why is this so hard, and what do we have to do to find common ground to get things done?
And some you weren't expecting.
Can you milk both sexes of a goat?
He's Gary Carter Green.
You know how to run a race because you've done it. You know how to win a race because you've done it.
Delivering your 2022 Democrats.
A+ on the research, Gary.
It just goes to show your brilliance.
I didn't say that. You said that.
At youcan'tbeatblue.com.
I think that's awesome. It's really awesome. I'm going to say two things. First of all, so that one is really great. But I want you to know that I did watch the one that you did with Pete Buttigieg, this most recent one. And I want to tell you that I just almost cried because it's just so powerful to see the passion that people had about Pete, and it's still there. So I think that's pretty amazing. But really, how does game shows and politics fuse together?
Oh, I'll tell you what, from my years, I worked on a show called Let's Make a Deal where Wayne Brady was hosting it. And I would be on the stage with him off camera as he would pick the people out of the audience. And, Wayne is an improv guy, and he just finds a couple details out about that person and can suddenly just run with it and make that nervous contestant feel so comfortable, so in their skin in this moment where normally, you see these people on camera, they're terrified, they're jittery, they can't speak for themselves. And I took a valuable lesson from that, which is, when I stood on that street corner to talk to people about Pete Buttigieg, I didn't just go to them and say, hey, I like this candidate. Let me tell you about him. I said, hey, you bought parsley. You bought kale. What are you going to do with that when you get home? I like to cook. Do you have any good recipes? And just start chatting with them and let them feel non-threatened by this strange guy in the park who's coming up and talking to them. And then, I was standing next to Cardboard Pete. They knew I was going to get to it, but they were ready to listen because I had given them a little bit of myself. I had shared a little bit of myself and I inquired about them. It wasn't just this hard sell. And I think that when you make people feel comfortable, they're willing to listen. Now, I'm not saying I convinced everybody that day to vote for Pete Buttigieg, but they knew a lot more about Pete Buttigieg when they walked away from me than they did before. And as far as I was concerned at the time, that was my mission, was to just get that name out and to let these people know this really good guy that they met at the farmer's market loves Pete, so maybe I should look into him. And maybe, maybe they didn't support him in the 2020, but maybe they will in 2024, or well, I should say 2028, whenever he runs again. That seed has been planted. And I think that, I just want to say to anybody who's nervous about talking to people about a politician, about politics, I think that they get so wound up in, we got to get this person on the Elizabeth Warren bandwagon. We got to get them interested in Kamala, No, you just talk from your own experience and what matters to you, and you pass that along. And as you get more comfortable, you get a little bit better at it. You might be able to get more information across in a shorter amount of time. But it's really just about expressing and sharing a little bit of yourself. You don't have to have them walking away with a Pete t-shirt on all of a sudden. You just got to spread the word. Let those people know it's okay to talk about who you love in politics.
I think that's fantastic. And I think that that's the lesson that we're all learning about canvassing, phone banking, postcards, is just talk to the people that you want to talk to about you. Share your story. And that's what gets people. But you know what else is really great is that I think that cardboard thing is probably a really good idea. I'm going to think about that. I think that's good. But I want you to know that you make everybody look good. So when I was talking to Mary, and when I talk to her right now, I'm really pretty nervous and I'm not very smooth. But by the time you get finished with me, I look pretty good. So, Robin, can we show how Gary makes me look when I have a conversation with Mary, who's pretty awesome too? I'm proud of the moment. I'm sad about the moment, but I believe that she has demonstrated why she should be on that bench.
She was prepared for this because of her life experiences in a way that I can't even begin to understand.
Don't despair, because when she got asked the question, the one thing that's most important, it was persevere. See that? See how good I looked? You did that.
Can I just say, Mary Rarick is another producer at You Can't Be Blue, and she does a lot of the interviews. So she does tremendous work. In this case, my participation was taking the footage and editing it and doing the graphics and adding the music and all of that. But I have to say, I always love when she interviews you, Fanal, because I get this raw footage, 20, 25 minutes of conversation, and I just love it. And when you said, don't despair, that just gets to me, because I do despair. I do. We all do despair. And we need that other person to say, don't. And that's why groups like the Power Lunch and You Can't Be Blue, when you're down, somebody else is up. And they can just say that one sentence to you that's going to make all the difference and keep you going and keep you reminded of the priorities and what's really important. So thank you so much. I think you're just wonderful.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Gary. This was so awesome. And I hope people check you out, and you're going to be having great guests on. And this has been awesome.
Hey,
I just wonder.
I'm thrilled to finally be here. Thank you so much for letting me be part of it. I'm sorry, Fanal, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm so happy to get to talk to you with you in the hot seat, and all of your information is in the chat. So guys, please, you can't beat Blue. You don't want to miss it.
.com. You can't beat Blue.com. And the Facebook group. That's where all the action is.
All the action. Awesome. Okay, great. So it's really playing to your strengths. Gary, your strength is here. It's fun. Your confidence exudes itself, and it makes people want to get excited because we're all in to win.
Yes, we are.
That's our motto this year. All right. Well, thank you, Fennell. Show messenger as usual. Awesome. And next up, I'm very excited to have Delegate Vivian Watts here. And many of you know her just as our usual great guest that wraps things up in the after chat, but she is also my delegate. And many of you may not know that she just has a historic legacy, I feel. When I went delegate and looked more into your history, I learned things I really didn't know about you that were really exciting. When we talk about competence and confidence and caring, you exude all of those in your work. But what you really used to get, it seemed like to me, to get ahead was really that fiscal analyst part of your abilities. But all the way back, and it was in 1982 when you first were elected to office, correct? So, longest serving woman in the House of Delegates. And then you left that position to go be the Virginia
Secretary of Transportation and Public Safety.
That's right. And you
Prisons and Pavement.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, and that you were also in the cabinet of Governor Belias and with Mary Sue Terry and Doug Wilder. And I just thought that was amazing. I had no clue that you were in that kind of historic piece of Virginia history. And also back in this article, 1986, they referred to you as cool, calm, and calculating, and very much a numbers person. And obviously you would sort of, give facts, these things called facts you used a lot, and you just showered people with all these numbers and literally could just take over the whole conversation just by talking people to numbers death, right? Which I'm just teasing, but no.
There's a yin and yang on that I'll address, right?
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that I was just so super impressed when I was reading your background. And then, but today we want to have you come on to talk about competency and around fiscal issues, finances, and which a lot of people steer away from, but you leaned really hard into that. So let's talk about that. How does that competence in finance and budgeting, your confidence in that area actually, and that you can actually support the policies that you care about, and how have you used that in your whole life? Tell us about your journey around this competence in numbers.
Okay, and I'll be as fast as I can, but and thank you for that introduction, Catherine, because I steer away from it for a number of reasons. All of that's only relevant if I stay up to date. So living in the past is not where it's at. But all of the experience that I have, if I stay up to date, has tremendous value. But also, let me be honest with at least some members of the Power Lunch, that there's a prejudice against age. So overemphasizing how long I've been at it and how old I am and all of those links is not a winning strategy. So, and yet, as I am hearing this, let me answer the question this way. When I was born, when I grew up, no way were women in any kind of a leadership role. I happened to be born a female, but I also happened to be born with real love of numbers. Please, someday, if you haven't seen it, watch Hidden Figures. Those three women so represent the journey that I had in my life to be who I am, what I care about, and be allowed to be it, even though I was a woman. So as I get out of college, I'm still married to the guy I married in college. I fancy that. And which was great because he saw me as a student. He saw me competent, even though we went into the world where here are female roles and here are male roles. So I had 15 years of a lot of deep civic involvement. I'm going to be honest with you for two reasons. One, because I genuinely cared, but also because I wanted to stay intellectually alive. And I realized that with this real focus on the budget and taxation, because all of our ideals aren't going to happen unless we fund them properly and fairly, equitably. So that 15 years of really honing all of my knowledge of that continues to be invaluable today. And it certainly was when my mentor, Dorothy McDermott, talked me into running. Who, me? Because here's the other part of me. I'm also an introvert. No way am I getting out there. So the nuggets of what Gary was saying, one of the things I love about politics is that I have a role to play as someone who's running for office. Therefore, it's okay to be an extrovert. And you know what? People are great. It's really wonderful to be talking to them. I still will revert in evening hours, absolutely, to be the introvert in front of the computer. You see all those notebooks back there with all of the things, the facts, the figures, da-da-da-da. But I love the fact that because of politics, and let me say one other thing to underscore a nugget that I heard in what Gary said. Many years ago, I was supposed to speak to a George Mason University evening class, about 40 people in the room, and suddenly I show up and I'm supposed to take all 2 hours. Whoa, wait a minute.
Oh boy.
So what I asked them was, what don't you like about politicians, elected officials? And they just scribble on the board. Then I said, what do you like? Painfully, what ideally would be your, and they gave me a couple of answers. When I turned at the end of the hour to those about 6 answers, in various ways it said, do you know where I live? Do you understand my life? Mm-hmm. So when I was told, when I was in the heart of my nerdyism one night, talking to one of my deputy secretaries, he turns to me and says, Vivian, you're always on send instead of receive. And that echoes in my head again and again when I get deep into the complexity of government, and it's not easy. And I get deep into it because each of these things make a difference. I will hear that voice and take a breath and listen to those threads. And by listening to those threads, as Secretary of Transportation Public Safety, which was an absolute men's world, if I listened to the men and then echoed some of their words in what I, with the authority, wonderful, of secretary, could now direct, it was invaluable compared to coming in the room and taking charge versus coming into the room, hearing, knowing where you can develop the buy-in and the strategy, and just letting them know that you heard as you lay down that solution, whether it's a 10-minute meeting or an hour-long meeting. And the final thing I will say is, having come into the General Assembly when only 21 women, ever since the 1920s, had served, having a numbers competence and a tax background was invaluable, because quite frankly, they'd run out of women's committees to put you on, education and in human resources.
Right.
But now, oh, okay, all right, we'll put her on finance. And I've been there ever since, and it's just been invaluable as far as the credibility for all of the other issues that I care about, that, hey, if she's rational on that, maybe she's rational on this too, and not just one of those emotional women.
Not just one of the, no, that's really great advice too, that send and receive. Mm-hmm. That's really important. Well, in the sense of what you're just talking about, leveraging that power, I mean, you obviously have this background, and you, how in politics is that important? Like, you're doing the budgeting right now. Let's talk about even that, what's going on in the General Assembly, but having that competence, walking to the room, how do you kind of leverage that power in your work?
The way in which I have done it, and partly because of when I came in and also my natural inclinations, work into your power, I really am a researcher. And I do not want to say something unless it's accurate, because I very much believe that that builds on your credibility for the next and the next. Now, things are a lot looser with the facts today than they used to be, but I will still, and I think I will do it whether it can be seen or not. This was my latest chart, which is all about the gas tax and all of these promises. But if I had it at the right distance, you would see how hard I tried to be as simple as possible in what one alternative versus the other alternative, and yet do it in a way that was absolutely accurate. I assure you, every one of those dollar bills are exactly representative of facts, and then being able to speak to those facts, that what's coming out in the press of this assumption that somehow we're going to go to the pumps and it's going to solve all the problems of inflation versus $11 a month. That's it. If it's all passed on without any profit taking, which is where the light colored dollar bills sort of flit away. All of those things are consciously being aware after I've done my homework. Now, how do you communicate it? And that becomes the challenge, because so many people, when it comes to taxes, it's the third rail of politics. So you don't pay attention to it. But if we're going to, as the senator from Michigan, I love the way she started out her remarks. She's saying the real challenge we have is in transportation, in public education, in mental health, and I could certainly go on. And that's what we should be addressing ourselves to. Well, if you're going to do that, that third rail of politics, having been ignored so long, is really ignoring it at our peril. One quick wrap-up promise, Catherine, on this. One of the things that happened 20 years ago when the Republicans took majority in the House, and it's right back there, was they changed the Finance Committee so that it would always have a majority of members who had signed Grover Norquist's no tax pledge. And because of that, real comfort level on the Republican side with that, because starve the beast. We really don't care about properly funding these programs. So we're ready to say no, 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 no to any tax cut. Grover Norquist says tax reform is also a tax increase, because if you're going to do inequities, you're going to take down and up. So when it comes things like really understanding earned income tax credit, really understanding the effect of, and I keep on saying this is it, but the sales tax on food. My citizen days came here from Michigan, right on the heels of massive resistance, which finally was broken in 1964, open up those schools in Prince Edward County. 1966, Virginia enacted the sales tax, and it always had 1 cent going directly based on school age population, not kids in school, but to say that every jurisdiction, no matter what the resistance was to segregation, would have the money in their public schools based on the need of the children throughout that jurisdiction. And I worry so much that as we quickly try to go with the bumper sticker politics of doing away with the grocery tax, we will lose that. And that's an extremely important policy as well as heritage as far as Virginia is concerned.
Right. I would love to lock you in the room with Governor Youngkin and just shower him with all those facts and details. I saw that he created a PAC now to go out and do
midterms. Speaking of, as Gary said,
yeah, he's not solving the budget, and we're so glad you're there. So we're so glad for your time today. And
it's the problem of a one-term governor. As soon as he gets elected, he's running for president. And here we are just 2-3 months in, and he's got his nationwide PAC for the midterms.
Right. And we have a bond rating to keep. And I think one thing that Democrats have done well is this fiscal governance responsibility around that has been awesome, that we do have that AAA bond rating.
And we will lose it with the kind of tax cuts that he's proposing. It's one thing to deal with a surplus as far as rebate, as far as meeting some long-time needs. It's another thing to do away with this totally. We will not have a balanced budget, and it won't be equitable either.
No, you're right. And so I'm so glad you're here. And will you be able to stay for the after chat today?
Of course.
Oh, good. We'll do some more wrap up. You know, the after chat is where we really can then kind of let our hair down and talk a lot more. I especially want to talk more about women running for office and candidates knowing this knowledge and being competent around this. So we will definitely unpack that more. And so thank you, Vivian, for being here, and we'll see you in the after chat. So before we get started, I want to remind everybody that Network Nova, that produces the Friday Power Lunch, also does the Women's Summit. We're in our 6th year, believe it or not. Yes, we are. And this year we are going to be going around Virginia again with our All In to Win theme this year. And we wanted to make sure that everybody knew to get ready. We're going to be launching that soon, but to mark your calendars for June 24th and 25th, we'll be in the Nova area. And then we actually took a day trip on Wednesday and drove out to Nellie's Ford with Jenny Kitchen. Jenny was our tour guide. Thank you, Jenny, for taking us around. We stopped at the winery. That was good. We did some tasting, which was just fun. But we plan to bring that out there in August 12th, 13th, and 14th. And then in September, we're going to be hitting the 757 Norfolk area, where we'll be making sure that we have a lot of boots on the ground canvassing in that area. But we're hoping that you want to join us. Our tickets will be up soon for sale, and it's going to be all in. Is this going to be our main theme? All in for Virginia, and all in to win, and all in for democracy, all in for the Women's Summit. All right. So I just wanted to have that short little selling point about the Women's Summit, and we will definitely be giving more facts about that as we come up. Robin, Stair, did I miss any detail that you'd like to shout out? Stair's thinking about it. Not sure.
Save the date. I put
Save
it in
the date.
chat.
Sponsors, we have Clean Virginia will be a sponsor. We have Planned Parenthood will be a sponsor, and we know our other sponsors will roll in. So we hope you'll support our efforts there. All right. Let's get to a next segment I'm very excited to bring up, because when we talk about confidence, we talk about competence, and we talk about caring. We have Kim Bobo here. And as we introduce you, you're the current executive director for the Virginia Interfaith Center on Public Policy. So we're so excited. Let's first of all, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm glad to be with you.
And when I talked about Vivian's long history in politics and caring about the issues, you yourself, I mean, the long history you've had fighting for justice and using your values of faith around that to organize people. People in the room need to know that Kim Bobo, before she was executive director of the Virginia Center for Interfaith Center, you were the founder and executive director of the Interfaith Workers Justice. And then going back before that, you were an organizer for social change for the Midwest Academy, which is renowned. We all know the Midwest Academy. And you wrote Wage Theft. You helped coin that in our lexicon. We know about wage theft because of the work you did. And you also have that organizing handbook that you still do trainings, I think. Don't you still train using that?
I do some. Yes.
So, I mean, awesome. Just the idea of how much you do care. So let's talk about the mission at the Virginia Interfaith first.
Absolutely. So our mission is to engage people of faith and goodwill in advocating economic, racial, and social justice in Virginia's policies and practices. You know, you started this show with put a little love in your heart. And I think what we do is we help people put that love in their heart into the public arena. Reverend Cornell West says that justice is what love looks like in public. So we're trying to take that sort of love and help people use the love in the public sphere. Because honestly, I think a lot of people do care about what's going on. But when it comes to like engaging in what's going on in the General Assembly, it's a scary prospect, right? People, it's hard to follow what's going on. You know, if you're just reading the newspapers, you can't possibly engage in the public sphere on these issues. And so we help make it simple for people so they can make a difference. You know, so we have like a simple action alert. We've got people at the General Assembly every day. We send out little alerts that say, write Delegate Watts and tell her blah, blah, blah. Now, you don't really have to write Delegate Watts because she's always doing the right thing. But I can assure you, a lot of legislators aren't doing the right thing, and they need to hear from you. And so because they're often taking positions that don't reflect our values. And they're not going to change if they don't hear from constituents. And honestly, I know it matters because we'll walk into a legislator's office and they'll say, oh, I heard from 10 people in the district saying blah, blah, blah. Now, they may not always vote the way those 10 folks do, but at least they're paying attention. And
Right.
they're much more likely to, you know, vote the values if they hear from people. So, you know, I can't tell you how important it is for us to not only vote, which you all are pushing, but also to follow up with those legislators, right? And tell them what you think. And you can only do that if you're connecting with organizations like ours that really are tracking what's going on and giving you the information. You know, in the General Assembly in Virginia, now this is not how other states operate, but in Virginia, you almost never will have more than 24 hours between when something is scheduled and when it's voted on. So you have to be connected to groups like us that can say, now's the time to send your email, right? You got to be equipped and prepared and ready to respond. And groups like us do that. And so we just invite you to sign up for our emails, get connected. You know, we may not work on all the issues you care about, so connect with some other organizations too.
Right.
But we're going to be working on those issues that are really equity, justice, fairness. Yeah.
Somebody's dog's barking. On whose it is. It's not my puppy sitting over here. Anyway, not mine. Kim, so let's talk about these issues. I'm sure, I mean, you center your work a lot around the economic and racial justice. And, you know, I think it's just so important to our work. And so let's talk about playing to your strengths, which is faith and around public policy. And tell us more about that. How many people are in your group? How does that strength help you when you do go in the room to talk and connect with the legislators? And then let's talk about some of your proudest moments around that.
Absolutely. So we have, I don't know, roughly 25,000 folks connected with us around the Commonwealth. Again, mostly people of faith, but there are other folks who join us because, you know, they just like what we do and like the ways that we equip them. What we say, people of goodwill who care about these similar issues. We have 120 congregations that have liaisons that work with us on a regular basis. We're always trying to expand that number. We do have people in every district in the Commonwealth. We have 13 or so chapters around the Commonwealth that actually engage people on a regular basis. So we do have a basis around the state, although we'd always like more. And what we do is we try to work on a handful of issues that are unifying within the faith community. So you and I know there's some issues that are divisive within the faith community. Frankly, we steer away from them because there are so many things that can unify us. And essentially, it's things that, you know, how do we make our policies better for low-income people, right? The faith community is concerned about poverty. The faith community is concerned about how do we welcome immigrants? So how do we make the Commonwealth more accepting and welcoming and fair for immigrants? We also are concerned about restoration and how do we make our criminal justice system, you know, fairer and kinder and more just.
Right.
And we're concerned about healthcare, right? We want everybody to have healthcare, and we want healthcare that treats people fairly based on, that it doesn't discriminate against people of color in our healthcare system. So these are the kinds of things that we have worked on. So on healthcare, like we really anchored the faith work on Medicaid expansion.
Yes.
Right now, last year, we helped get a bill through that expanded Medicaid for pregnant, undocumented women who are pregnant, right? Prenatal care for them. Got 7,000 people now with prenatal care. This last General Assembly, we'd been working trying to get a training requirement for all healthcare professionals on unconscious bias. Now, didn't get through, but it got continued, and we think we've got a very good shot for next year.
Yeah.
On criminal justice reform, last year we worked on ending the death penalty in Virginia. Yes. That first state in the South to end the death penalty. This year, we've been working on trying to reduce the excessive use of solitary confinement in Virginia. Again, we didn't quite get something through, but we got a study bill. We think we've got a good shot for next year.
Right.
We have also been working to get paid sick days for all workers in Virginia. There's 1.2 million workers who have no paid sick days. It's absolutely outrageous. We've only gotten it for 30,000 home care workers. That's good, but not enough.
Not good
Lots
enough.
more workers need it. That's the kind of thing we do, so join us.
I love it. And I know that living wage certification program you launched in Harrisonburg. I saw you tweeted about that in Charlottesville, and you're all about that living wage, which I love. And I saw your testimony on solitary confinement. I just want to say that to me it's torture. And I'm so glad to hear your words on that, because we still seem to not be able to deal with that in the prison system or any kind of incarceration system. And it's just, when we talk about mental health, it's hard to be mentally well in prison as it is. And then solitary confinement is really just terrible. So with that said, I'm so excited that you're here with us. Your work and your caring and the way that you just care about these issues just helps Virginia. So everybody in the room, learn more about the Interfaith. I know some of you already do work with them. So thank you so much, Kim Bobo. It's so fun to see you. And I know you can't stay for the after chat, but we'll have you back. Just join us anytime. So thank you, Kim.
Excellent.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it is that time again where we're leading up to the hour of 1 o'clock. And I want to make sure that we say a few things as we wrap up the show. First, thank you from all the way from Portland. Of course, we're Gary Carter Green here, and then Delegate Watts, and she'll be in the after chat with us, and then Kim Bobo. Thank you for being here. And I want to also say thank you to the team that brings the show. Robin Warner, show wizard up there, Stare Calhoun, ambassador of Buzz, Vanell Norton, our show messenger, and Heidi Dragneff, social media diva. And special thank you today to our Zoom crew, Shamira Brown and Laura Martinez. Thank you for keeping us real in the room. And I want to say hi, Margaret Morrison. I'm glad you popped in. I'm just going to give you a big wave. I just looked down there and seeing you. So thank you for being here. And thank you, Michelle McKinney, for our newcomer chat liaison. So awesome to build our team out. And then our content concierge, Julie Galdo and Sally Rendell. Thank you, Sally and Julie, for making sure that we spell correctly on the Power Lunch. And lastly, remember, want to be a patron on the show, support our work, give us a few bucks. We love it. And next week, we have Clean Virginia with us, and that will be really great to be talking about climate. And who else is on our show next week, Robin?
The API caucus. Suhas will be there, Kathy Tramp, and Eileen Shen. And then we're really excited to feature Dr. Ali Karim from Global Shout, who's working with Afghan refugees here in Northern Virginia, but he's been working with refugees all over the world. And we're so happy that he's going to stop by to be with us on April 29th, because the next day he's leaving for the Ukraine. So That's quite amazing, and he's going to tell us about all the projects he's working on with young women.
No, it's great. And all the stuff they're doing in Virginia to help settle these refugees. So that would be awesome. So, okay, everybody, thank you. Follow us on social media. We love it. And we will send out the recap also to everybody for this show, so you won't miss a thing. And we hope you'll stay for the after chat. And of course, more to come on the Women's Summit. So let's wrap up. Robin.